Orale! Bienvenidos and welcome to the Familia FFP podcast. I'm your host, Jorge Martin. And do you remember the 21st night of September? That's right, September 21, the date upon which is written the absolute greatest song in disco history. September, Earth, Wind, and Fire. Muchas gracias for writing that song. I can't tell you how many thousands of times I've heard that song. Made sure it gets played at weddings, bar mitzvahs, everything, quinceañeras, the whole 9 yards. It gets the place jumping and it gets going. So one more time. Do you remember the 21st night of September? Well, hey, let's get into it. It is week 3. It is waiver wire time. It is time for Los Peekups. As we talked about last week, the Peekups is based on my father used to call his pickup a Peekup. So gotta love it. But hey, it's not a very sexy week this week. We don't have an Elijah Mitchell who has us all frothing at the mouth and wanting to be able to pick him up. No, there's not, but there is some value. And the value that is actually going to be happening is starting off with the quarterbacks. So we got 3 streamers this week, and these streamers might become starters because of the fact that there are some guys who are out there who got hurt last week. We're talking Tua Tagovailoa, Tyrod Taylor. They're likely out. Carson Wentz sprained both of his ankles. Who knows if he's going to be able to play? Derek Carr, sprained ankle. We've got Ben Roethlisberger took a shot to the chest. He's walking wounded. Baker Mayfield, I don't know if you guys saw that play where he got up and it looked like his left arm was hanging. I was worried about a shoulder separation at that point. And then we also got Andy Dalton, which means Justin Fields is going to be likely going to be starting. He's not eligible for this Peekups waiver wire column, but if he is available in your league, you got to grab him. Grab him now. Make him your top waiver priority. But the players who are at least 50% or less rostered on Yahoo leagues, I got 3 quarterbacks that we got to talk about. Number 1, Teddy Bridgewater. He's completing 77% of his passes right now. I mean, through 2 weeks. And granted, it's been a couple of cupcakes. You had Jacksonville in there last week that he just tore them apart. But again, he is doing it. He was 9 of 10 for 97 yards and a touchdown when he was under pressure last week. So under pressure. So, thank you, Queen, for writing that song. So this is a guy, he's coming home, he's playing the Jets. The Jets, no bueno on defense. Can you imagine? No, they're not someone that you want to roster. Get Teddy B in your lineup. Daniel Jones, he's going up against Atlanta. Is he the new Konami code quarterback? He had 95 yards rushing last week. He looked great. He had 1 touchdown. He had another one called back. He's coming home. The Atlanta Falcons are coming to town. The Falcons are number 32 in fantasy points per game allowed to quarterbacks right now. This looks like it's shaping up like a big time romp. Also, remember, Daniel Jones was 1 dropped bomb by Darius Slayton away from going over 300 yards last week. So again, keep an eye on him. Ponlo en la mira. He is a guy that I don't know if he's going to be an every week starter for you, but there are going to be some points in the schedule where you want to grab him and put him in your lineup. The other one, Sam Darnold. Back-to-back games of 200 plus yards in the first half. Thank you, Peter King, for that stat. Again, was it just getting out from under Adam Gaze's thumb? Maybe. You got Joe Brady calling the plays. This is a guy, he is averaging close to 300 yards a game right now. He's got weapons. He's got DJ Moore in the middle of what looks like a breakout season. Still got Robbie Anderson. Got Terrace Marshall in there. And you got that guy, Run CMC, and coming out of the backfield, grabbing plenty of passes. Sam Darnold at Houston this week. Now, Trevor Lawrence went for over 300 yards in Houston a couple weeks ago, but Sam Darnold, much better supporting cast than what Lawrence has. And I'm telling you, Darnold is a play this week. The Texans, no bueno on defense. Let's go to the running backs. Michael Carter is rostered in 50% of leagues, so he barely makes it onto this list. I liked what I saw. I picked him up on one of my main leagues last week, kind of on a speculative pick because of the fact that someone had dropped him. So it's kind of like, as the fantasy footballers like to say, drop it while it's hot. Well, this is a guy. He got 13 touches total for 88 yards. So this is a guy. Michael Carter. I've always said that he was the most talented running back in the running back room for the Jets. He is a guy that is going to be able to play plenty, and he got 33 offensive snaps last week, which was the same as Ty Johnson, and they were way ahead of the second most or third most technically. So these two are going to be the ones that are on the field the most. I think Michael Carter is going to come into kind of like that DeAndre Swift role that was what he did about halfway through the season, where he does some running, runs about 10, 12 times a game and catches about 5-6 passes. I think that's what's happening. It's a tough matchup this week at Denver. As we mentioned when we were talking about Teddy Bridgewater, Michael Carter might not have a lot of room to run this week, especially with Mekhi Becton being out injured. But again, this is a speculative play. This is a play for the weeks ahead, maybe for your bye weeks, maybe for the second half of the season. If Michael Carter is available in your league, snap him up because running backs are going to become more and more scarce as the season goes along. Speaking of running backs, Zach Moss. He is rostered in 49% of leagues. There's some good. He got 2 touchdowns last week after being inactive in week 1. The not so good, he had 18 offensive snaps only, which was significantly behind, less than half of what Devin Singletary had. So, temper your enthusiasm for him a little bit. No te pongas tan loco for him. But again, it's another running back. It was interesting that how the Bills are starting to run a little bit more. I mean, they're not hitting on all cylinders in the passing game like they did last year, but again, Moss is a guy that at the very least is going to be a primary option at the goal line. James White was a primary option, surprisingly, option at the goal line. He's rostered in 43% of the leagues. He got a touchdown last week, but with him, you're grabbing him with the idea of using him in the passing game. He's got 12 receptions already in the first 2 weeks of the season. He's very much the primary target. He actually led the New England Patriots in snaps last week. So you're looking at him as the guy who's going to be on the field plenty. We know that in that system that they like to check down to James White primarily, but secondarily to any of the running backs. So I'm looking for White to be a guy who's going to get plenty of targets over these weeks. He's a guy to target essentially for those bye weeks coming up. He's a great play in PPR, so you want to grab him in there. He's going up against New Orleans this week, kind of a tough matchup. I know what happened last week with Carolina. I'm still kind of chalking that up to, kind of a weird thing, possibly a mulligan for the Saints. Let's also remember they had plenty of coaches that were on the COVID list. They've been traveling essentially for a month since Hurricane Ida. So, maybe we cut them a little slack. But again, James White is a good play. The interesting one, Cordarrelle Patterson, CPAT, Ian Hartitz of Pro Football Focus. This one's for you. I can't believe that major confession, permítame, Padre, porque yo he pecado, but bless me, Father, for I've sinned. I sat Cordarrelle Patterson in a 20-team league, 20 teams. Then he got a pair of touchdowns. I actually lost. G-Man J, you got me on this one. Hopefully we get to meet again later. But so he got a pair of touchdowns last week, one in passing, one rushing. Got a total, he was very much used in the both in the offense in kind of a rough game for the Falcons. But again, you're looking at him as kind of a complementary option with maybe the upside of gaining some carries because of carries and touches because of the fact that you're looking at him. He's not, he hasn't been used like Mike Davis. Mike Davis got 46 offensive snaps last week to 24 for Cordarrelle Patterson. So Davis was on the field more, but you know what? I was talking about fading him a lot. Fading Davis a lot before the season because I just didn't like the way this was going to shape up, and I really felt like they were going to trade him during partway through the season. They might not be able to because Davis just has not been good this year. Patterson's going to be a good two-way threat. He might be a cheap flex option for you down the road. Just definitely look at grabbing him up. Only in 16% of leagues right now. Last running back, Alexander Madison. My name is Alexander Madison. I'm sorry. All you Hamilton fans, you guys get that one. Okay, so he's on this list. He's on 33% of rosters right now. He is not on this list for the 11 rushing yards that he had last week. And he only got 13 offensive snaps, which was 47 compared to Dalvin Cook. He is on this list because Dalvin Cook came out of the game for a little bit with a tweaked ankle. So you just never know with Dalvin Cook. He's got that shoulder that could be a ticking time bomb. Gracias to Dr. Edwin Porras for keeping us up to speed on that. But again, you look at Madison. If you'd love to have Madison already on your roster, if something happens to Cook, and if you've got that spot open, it's a good option to have. So go grab him. Darnell Mooney, interesting ball player. He is rostered in 45% of leagues. Last week, he had 8 targets, turned him into 6 receptions for 66 yards against Cincinnati. And, he actually was on the field for 6 more snaps than Allen Robinson. So you're looking at him. He's a great deep threat. Nothing's been declared as of right now. We're in the afternoon on Wednesday. Nothing has been declared that he is going to be the starter, but that Justin Fields is going to be the starter. But keep in mind, Justin Fields' deep ball was one of the best in college football last year. So Darnell Mooney, he is a splendid, incredible offensive option when it comes to the deep ball. So grab, Mooney may be a guy to grab for upcoming weeks. And, this is a tough week with Cleveland coming in with an upgraded secondary, even though they're only number 17 in fantasy points per game allowed to the wide receiver. But if you need to play Mooney, not a bad play because of the fact that there's the home run potential with him. And speaking of home run, Rondale Moore. More. Dame more. 35% of rosters out there. So I'm recommending this one with potentially a little bit of pumping of the brakes. So he had 7 receptions last week in 8 targets, 114 yards, and an electric touchdown. He was fantastic. Keep in mind, he was only on the field for 28 snaps, so he got the ball almost a third of the time that he was that he was on the field. So if he's on there, there's almost a 1 in 3 chance that he's going to get the ball. But that was still number 4 among Cardinals pass catchers. So the one thing that is important, they do like to run a lot of forward wide receiver sets. So Rondale Moore is a guy that could be an option. Maybe it's a sign that his role is going to grow some more. So you still got Hopkins there, you still got AJ Green, you still got Christian Kirk. But again, if you're looking at a cheap way to get into this electrifying offense, this is a guy to get. Go grab him. Another electric player, Henry Ruggs. I mean, that was such a beautiful long bomb for against the Steelers. Now, I tell you, there were some people out there who were saying to drop him going into week 2. They didn't like the usage on Monday Night Football against the Ravens, but I kept saying pump the brakes. This is a first-round draft pick who was on a team that didn't really have a lot of wide receiver competition other than Bryan Edwards. Yes, I know. They've got Darren Waller. He's there. He's a stud. He's a G. Eso está bien. Él es el hombre. Somebody needs to be riding shotgun with him. And it may as well be Ruggs. There have been so many people who've talked about the way he opens up the field for them in the middle. Darren Waller being one of them, saying how much Ruggs opens up the field in the middle. You look at Ruggs. He's going to get that deep ball, and he's a guy you want to have on your roster because of the fact that, I mean, again, he's got that home run potential, and you're looking at him as someone to stash. Look, I have him on a lot of rosters. I probably batted 500 on starting him last week. I wish I batted 1,000 because I would have gotten a couple more wins, but Así. One thing to keep in mind also, Brian Edwards is a guy, his teammate is another wide receiver to keep an eye on and maybe grab. He's only in 20% of rosters out there. So he is someone who is likely to get plenty of balls in the weeks ahead. Also, keep an eye on the practice and the injury reports in relation to Derek Carr, because if Derek Carr can't go, then I don't know if I could start him. I can start Ruggs or Edwards because of the fact that even the backup quarterback, Marcus Mariota, he's on IR. So I don't know who's third string with the Raiders, but again, I worry about that. Derek Carr does play through injuries. Remember last year he played through an injury late in the season after he came out of that Thursday night game. So and Marcus Mariota kind of lit up the place. It looked like Lamar Jackson. So make sure to keep these two guys in mind, but keep an eye on the practice reports. Tim Patrick. Those of you old enough to remember Buddy Ryan and the Eagles when he used to say that Chris Carter, all he used to do is catch touchdowns. Well, he ended up catching touchdowns all the way to the Hall of Fame. Largely with the Minnesota Vikings. So you look at Patrick again, 2 weeks, 2 touchdowns. He's only caught 7 receptions during that time. And all of a sudden he's going to have, you're looking at him as the number 2 possibility. Cortland Sutton is the clear number 1, el numero uno on this team. So there's no question on that. But Patrick, he's going to keep getting targets because there's no Jerry Jeudy out there. And it really looks like he's going to be the option. Can you imagine if you throw some fab dollars at Teddy Bridgewater and Tim Patrick? All of a sudden you get yourself a stack this week going up against the Jets. Los Jets. Oh, eso es muy caliente. That is something that I want to be putting on my roster. All right. Well, last wide receiver we're talking about, Quintez Cephas. We're looking at him, and I'm looking at you, Quintez Cephas. I saw you plenty, especially on that first drive last night against for the Lions against the Packers on Monday Night Football. He looked great. He now has 13 targets in the first 2 games and touchdowns in both games, and he is the clear leader both in targets and in snaps among the wide receivers for the Lions. Now, granted, we all know that TJ Hawkinson is going to be a numero uno when it comes to targets for the Lions. I am not discounting that, but this is a team that's going to have to throw. I mean, we saw it last night. They need to throw to keep up because that defense, no bueno, and they lost another defensive back last night. So again, this one's the Cephas. He's only on 2% of rosters out there. So, and he is far and away the guy, the snap leader among the wide receivers and the target leader. So you want this guy on your roster. So, for a stash, look at the option, maybe play him in a home game against, potentially a weak secondary, kind of like the last flex. He's a guy to ponlo en la mira. Keep an eye on him. Ponle el ojo. Last one. Austin Hooper, and this one is directly related to Jarvis Landry going on IR earlier today. You look at him, he is, there's going to be some targets out there. We still don't know if OBJ is going to be able to play this week. So if OBJ doesn't play this week, all of a sudden are we talking about what? Yeah, Donovan Peoples-Jones is the number 1 receiver. Anthony Schwartz, there's going to be some targets out there. Kareem Hunt's going to get some targets. And I'm also reminded of something that Mary Kay Cabot of Cleveland, the Cleveland Plain Dealer and Cleveland.com told me. This is an offense that very much reveres the tight end. This is a player that is going to be getting plenty of playing time and getting plenty of targets. He was the snap leader among all the tight ends. There were 3 tight ends who all got at least 30 snaps last week. So there's a lot of 12 personnel, maybe, and plenty of tight ends on there. Some of them on there to block, but you know what? There's going to be plenty of times where the tight ends are going to leak out and get some targets, some stuff underneath. Hooper is as good a chance as any. If you've been streaming tight ends so far, you want to make sure you want to, hey, take a look at this guy and see if he maybe can help you out for a week. Because the Bears, they're pretty decent on defense, but again, this is going to be a home game for the Browns. So this is an option. This is purely a volume option, familia. Well, eso es todo for los Peekups. And remember, This is thank you so much for joining us. Please make sure you're following us on YouTube. Please make sure to subscribe. Give us a like on this one. Hopefully you like my singing on here. So I may give you a little bit more taste on this one. Please make sure to also make sure if you want to listen to the audio version, you find us on Apple, Google, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, because we are on Anchor. Also, make sure you find our original content at familiaffb.com. And I push out all the content on Jorge Martin at Jorge Martin 17 on Twitter. And make sure to follow us on Instagram at Familia FFB and on Twitter as well. So, let's not forget our Familia FFB Facebook page. Otra vez, everybody, remember, todos somos familia. And una vez más, do you remember the 21st night of September?